Hey guys, this is John. I'm playing Grandmaster Slipak. Sorry, I can't speak. That's actually kind of a hard name to say. And I started with c4, so let's see what we get. We'll play knight f3 in this position. So this is a Grandmaster from what, Argentina? Yeah, Argentina. Let's go e3. Usually they play c5 now. Plays knight a6. It's interesting. Knight a6. So first big question, which way do I... How do I... Do I take on e5 or do I postpone that in favor of developing move? Let's take on d5. Yeah, let's keep it simple. Just capture. He takes with the pawn, okay. I'm going to put the pawn on d3. And I'm just going to play knight bd2. And kind of adopt like a hedgehog-like setup. Let's bring this knight to e5. Okay. So what's going on with queen g4? Queen g4, anything? Probably not. Nah, let's just take. Maybe put this knight on f3 again. Threaten knight e5. I want to back that knight off, of course, by playing a3 soon. Who is this Grandmaster? Sergio Slipak from Argentina. FIDE rating 2435 according to his finger notes. Okay. Well, I guess he's going to bring his knight back to c6 when it's attacked. And am I okay with a trade? I'd like to inconvenience his queen now, but I don't see a good way to do that. Yeah, so let's just do this. Force him backwards. Yeah, let's take b4. And if he takes twice on b4, I have some stuff with queen g4, is my thinking. So, how about rook c1? Just x-ray his queen on c6. Goes queen b5, okay. Well, now I have this queen g4 idea. He may go d4 to try to thwart that. But I can just take then. So he has to play either g6 or f6, I think, in this position. Well, he could play d4 take and then bishop f6. Maybe that's his idea. That actually looks pretty strong. I did not see that. Yeah, I didn't see that at all. Let's just do this. I think I kind of have to. And now maybe rook c4. Even rook c4 doesn't look good. Nothing looks good. Let's go rook e1. So if he takes, at least I have bishop f1. But he'll take on d4. I'm pretty sure of it. Takes on b4 instead. Okay, let's take here. At least now I might be able to play d5 and save one of my d-pawns. Yeah, his c6 square is vulnerable. He can play bishop b7, though. Yeah. Man, stop playing good moves, Sergio. I'll just attack his a7 pawn. Attack the b6 pawn. So I'm just trying to distract him from winning my d pawn outright. What if I play rook c6 now? Is that okay? Well, we better go here first. Pre-move that. So you can take and play rook c8. And then I'll bring the queen back to d4. Or maybe I'll go queen b3. Queen b3 might be okay too. Yeah, probably queen b3. He could play rook b8 and then move his bishop away when I attack the b6 pawn. That would be okay for him to do. Yeah, but what are you going to do about that move now? Uh-huh. So he has some back rank stuff. Let's just go h4 for safekeeping. Make sure my king can run to h2. Because if I had taken rook c1 was his idea, and then I'd have to play bishop f1 to avoid losing my queen. Which actually maybe is not that bad for me, but I didn't want to risk it. Because I think this pawn is going to be hanging next move regardless. Yeah, so can I just take now? I don't see why not. So now if he were to check, I could just go king h2. d4, he has rook c1. So, well, okay, we'll just do that. This is going to be drawish soon. He's going to trade bishops. Yeah, this is like a pretty dead draw. Pretty dead. Unless he wants to attempt to play it for a win.
Check.
I'm going to give him a check and just see how far out he wants to take his king. We'll go after these pawns. Yeah, he's going to bring it out. So now he'll probably go a2. I'm surprised he's playing it like this. So now I got to take up resonance behind the pawn. It's still a draw. I could draw this position without the pawn on f2. It's still a draw. This king just has no shelter. So in order to win these, or try to win these positions, he would have had to keep the pawn on a3.
Check. Check.
It's instructive.
Check.
Yeah, so it's a draw. And he doesn't want to risk anything because there's no way for him to make progress. So I think the only way he could have tried to do something is, let's say here, if he had kept that pawn on a3 and played a move like rook c1 maybe. But it's risky. You know, I take, let's say he takes here. Yeah, I can go behind the pawn. We get a situation like this. And realistically, to win, he's got to bring his king all the way in, escort the pawn. And by that time, I'll have probably created a passed pawn or two of my own on this wing. So, don't think he can really try to risk the win. Let's see. Let's see what went wrong for me, because I didn't get anything out of the opening. He played knight a6. I'm just not aware of that move in this position. Main line is c5, or take and then c5. So like that. And then white has a choice of strategies. A lot of people try to, usually they'll start with queen e2 and put the pawn on d3. Some will try to go for d4 for white. But knight a6 is a flexible move. I don't think I should have captured. Maybe d4. Just d4 straight away. But I thought he would play c5, and the knight on a6 is not that poorly placed for this c5 plan. It's fine for him. So he took that way, then I played d3. I was trying to adopt like a hedgehog-style position, but I think I just gave him too much play. Knight came out to f3. Any tactics here I was not aware of? I don't think so. I did play a3. He dropped back. Okay. Yeah, b4 was perhaps optimistic. Computer says I should just do this right away. Oh, okay, because if he goes here, I can take on d5. There's this idea. So I was pretty aware I wanted to go queen g4 at some moment. I just chose the wrong moment. b4 was getting too cute. My main idea was like if take and take, I'm hitting the bishop. Also, should he ever take this pawn and the bishop's kind of dangling out on b4, then queen g4 might gain in strength. I'm hitting g7 and attacking his bishop over here. So he doesn't take on b4 though. Then my strategy looks suspect. Yep, I popped the queen out to g4. d4 was a good reply. If not for d4, I might have something here. But d4 was nice. Take and then this bishop f6 idea. I thought I was worse at this point, because I didn't know how to resolve the tension on d4. I'm pinned, and my dark square bishop was one of my more active pieces along with my queen, and suddenly it can't do anything because of the pin on the a1, h8 diagonal. Rook e1. So it likes bishop e4, huh? And if take, just rook takes. Okay, it says I'm not worse here. Okay, I guess I could see that. But I was also thinking of rook c4, but I thought he could just move his queen somewhere and attack the rook. I think I was mainly thinking of queen d7, and I thought this endgame looked better for him. But yeah, queen a4 also looks strong, as the engine is pointing out, attacking the rook. So now take... Oh, did I miss bishop c6? Bishop c6 would have been a good move. Or at least interesting. And then if take here, I grab this guy. If he takes on d4, I have rook d1. Nice. Okay. So I missed bishop c6. I played the capture on b4 instead. He took the queen. Yeah, and I'm a little bit worse now. Not too bad, I guess. There's this rook c6 idea, which might come in handy in some positions. But, you know, bishop e7 is a nice move because if I can somehow stabilize the position and keep one or both of my d-pawns, I think they're at least as good as these pawns, or if not as good, I think I'm not that much worse. But bishop e7, he's just trying to eliminate this d-pawn, and if that d-pawn goes, you know, I've got to be significantly worse. My only chance is to counterattack these pawns. Try to make it uncomfortable for him, distract him before he can play bishop takes d5, because I can't defend that pawn any further. So that's why I played rook a1. He played a5, and I started probing the b6 point. The engine just says take, and then grab on b6. And I think it's showing this small edge for him just because he has the outside pass pawn. If the queens were off the board, this would be a complete and utter draw. But with the queens on board, I think I have to take a little bit more care because my king is slightly exposed. I've already played g3. And maybe that, in conjunction with his passed a-pawn, gives him some small chances. Small chances. I mean, you could see this is not getting over a half pawn of an advantage. But rook fe8, he looks slightly better coordinated, more centralized. My king is more open. So this would require some accuracy to save. He's got almost a 2-to-1 time edge here. So maybe he should have done something like that. So actually it thinks in this position if I had played rook cb3, now I'm for choice. Because after bishop takes, I have this move. Trying to capitalize on the pin. Well, I was just thinking purely in terms of how can I simplify and not lose a pawn in the process. So we were bound for this move, this type of position. Okay, so here, just a tactic that everyone should be aware of. It looks like he's letting me play queen takes b6, but his idea is that if I do that, my rook is overloaded. It's trying to defend the queen and also defend the back rank. So how does he exploit that?
Check.
Rook c1. Now, and the idea is if I take, I would lose my queen. Now, I do have bishop f1 in this position, but somehow it didn't sit well with me. What could he do, though? Actually, this might be okay. I was thinking he might have some sort of queen takes d5 idea, threatening mate. But the thing is, I can just take here, can't I? I can just do that. And if he takes here, then I just take his queen. So I wonder if I could actually get away with queen takes b6 in this position. Let's just see. No, apparently not.
Check.
Here. Let's just trade queens and then take on d5? Really? Is he that much better, though? I guess so. Okay, because it'll take me a few moves to free myself. And again, this a-pawn. That's very annoying. And if I go after his a-pawn, like, yeah, rook b5, the point is he can do this, and I don't have time to take because of bishop e2. Attacking f1 and winning the bishop. So it looks like at least my instincts were correct that taking on b6 was not justified. So that's why I played h4. h4 is just a good move in many structures. This is called the wave breaker structure. There's a book on positional play that was published recently where they refer to this as the wave breaker. It's an optimal structure in so many different endgames and middle games. So you have one weakness, the f2 pawn, and it's very close to the king. And compared to like f4, this is a similar structure, also has one weakness, but the king is much more open in this case. So with the configuration f2, g3, h4, you have one weakness and your king's safe, and often you're optimally placed for a lot of endgames that come up. You have protection along the second rank in a lot of rook endgames. Is another reason why this is a good strategy. So, oh, and here I missed a good move as well, d4. Making it difficult for him to win the d5 pawn. Yeah, that's right. Because he can't take with the bishop, I have the in-between move, take on c5. So that would back his rook off, and I guess then I could take on b6. Huh. That's a hard thing to do in chess, and I've been defending this entire game. I thought I was worse from the moment he played bishop f6, and it didn't occur to me really that I had anything better than just trying to get my pawn back on b6 and kind of grovel for a draw downtime, and having been worse most of the game. But chess surprises you like that sometimes. Like, a good player, maybe someone better than me, would shift gears and find the move d4. I mean, I would have found this move too if it was a a longer game, but maybe hard move to find in a shorter game. Because queen takes b6 seems so obvious. And now it's just a draw. Yeah, maybe I didn't have to get so fancy with with the d4 move, but
Check.
It doesn't do any harm. Yeah, this is a draw. I mean, if he really wanted a direct draw, he would just go over and play rook d1 and eliminate that pawn and give me the a pawn, and we're in a 3 versus 3.
Check.
Just checking to see if okay. Well, actually, the engine thinks he might have. That was the line we were looking at, right? A3 take. Okay, but the engine is also saying A2, but this is what happened in the game. And I just came back. Yeah, and this is a draw. And as I was saying, this is a draw even without the f-pawn. I mean, let's just get rid of this f-pawn, just for the sake of argument. Engine still shows like a massive advantage for black, but don't believe that. There's no way to make progress in this position. Because these pawns are not conducive to getting a pass pawn for him. He needs another pass pawn to win. But it would have to be either an f pawn or a center pawn or like some other pawn other than his g or h pawns. Okay, because he can never free this rook, and we saw it. If his king approaches the pawns, I always give checks from behind, and his king has no shelter. So even though this is -3.5, there's no winning plan for black. And I'll keep my king here or here on these two squares, g2 or h2. Those are safe squares for me. If I ever try to get close to the pawn, I lose because of this idea. Rook h1, he gets around the back. I would be forced to take the pawn and he skewers.
Check.
Okay, so when you're defending a position in a rook endgame where your opponent's pawn has reached the 2nd or 7th rank, it's one square away from queening, and you have to keep your rook behind, you have to pay really close attention to where your king is. Your king has to be either sheltered on a square like, sometimes it can manage on a square like g4, where there's no checks from the back. But really, the two safest squares are often g2, h2, or g7, h7, assuming it's a pawn you're fighting against. So, Yep, so in this game with the pawn on f2, this was a much easier draw because I'm guarded against second-rank checks as well. So hopefully that explanation about this endgame makes sense. My students will know I spend a lot of time on endgames like this with one extra pawn for one side. They always look at rook endgame rook pawn scenarios because that's the most extreme case. But this would apply if it was a b pawn or a c pawn as well, like pawn on c2 and rook on c1. It's the same concept. White draws with the rook on c7. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to let me know in the comments. So, all right, well, thank you guys for tuning in. Scored, what did I get, 1.5 out of 3 today? Could have been better. All right, well, thanks, guys. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.